Mr. Vaibhav Khandelwal, who is the Business Head India and South Asia for IBM Trusteer, to make his presentation on critical security solutions for regulations and effective cyber defense. Mr. Vaibhav.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Vishal. Thank you, everyone, for setting it up so nicely for all of us. And thank you to the organizing team, Shelley, and the team for having this august audience participate in this session today. I think you would all wonder that, what I'm doing here and what do we bring onto this discussion. I've been part of the banking industry, both first as a corporate banker with a bank in Singapore, and then as a banking consultant in IBM for the last few years. And we've been investing into a lot of technologies. One of them is an Israeli cybersecurity company that IBM bought called Trusteer, just towards the end of 2013. And I get the opportunity to meet all of you and then talk about cybersecurity in various conversations. So we'll just get started with this. And this may sound like hyperbole. I don't know how many of you would believe it. I've been on the receiving end of a fraudulent attack when I was doing my consulting assignments, and I was overseas in South Africa. And I thought I'm very one of the early adopters of technology, right from when internet came in and when we were on dial-up modems to everything else. And I was taking all the safety measures. I was told when I was in South Africa, use ATM machines, use whatever banking transactions you're doing, only in large malls, only in the IBM office, etc. However, I fell for an ATM machine scam there. There were around 50 transactions done over 3 days. While I was in flight, the card was in my pocket, money was still being taken out, up to 10 transactions a day. And I would have thought the bank would have gotten an alert in their systems, and they would have stopped. At least they would have tried to make a connect with me. If they would have not made a connect with me, then they would have anyways stopped the card or made sure that the limit was not reached every day. Anyways, that didn't happen. And I, as a consumer, then had to go around the rounds, right from talking to a consumer court lawyer, to RBI, to the bank, to the branch, to prove that I was really in the flight and the card was with me and everything else. The reason I'm saying all of this to you is because I never thought it would happen to me, but I suffered that. And that's why we would say, and IBM's view is that everyone is sort of a target right now. It's not a matter of if your organization would be breached, the question is when it would be breached and how. And it may sound far-fetched, but I guess a lot of you as security practitioners do see it on a daily basis. What we'll do in the next 5 to 7 minutes, and I and my colleague Tushar, we'll just show you how the fraudsters are using cyber technology in a way which is advanced to some of our defenses in creating these fraudulent transactions on your digital assets. And there have been some great points which have been raised in the open house this morning, and we'll try and touch upon a few of those in this short presentation. A lot of you have gone through the headlines of how fraud is happening and everyone's sort of under attack. These are just some of the headlines only in 2015. To bring an example on what we've seen in late 2014, we didn't expect that a Malaysian bank, a large Malaysian bank, users were on their website. A man-in-the-browser attack happened because of NeverQuest malware, where users, while they were on the banking website, on the right URL, a new screen came in saying, scan the QR code, download our mobile banking application, get 50 ringgit. That was a screen which came in while they were on the banking website. Now the malware was already there on their endpoints when they were doing the online transactions. And it had already taken username and password details over a period of time. And this was being done for hundreds of thousands of potential sort of internet banking users. So when they made enough repository, the attackers, of username and passwords, they initiated this attack online of a man in the browser where the QR code message came in. And people with smartphones and an offer of 50 ringgit and to download the new mobile banking application scanned it. Some of them got, and then they got an SMS saying, click on this link, download the application, mobile banking application. And Malaysia is a two-factor authentication country, so you cannot add a new payee unless you get a OTP, etc. So what happened was now the fraudsters were able to be both on their endpoint, get their username, password, and get their OTP. And over a period of 2 days, around $1 million of frauds were done, and only they were able to detect when users came in and said, I see this funny transaction, I didn't do it, I don't know what has happened, and a lot of users called in to them. I don't think we expected an emerging economy to face that kind of cyber attack on a large digital bank as quickly. I thought this was still a very Europe, US-centric problem, where they were still trying to roll out OTPs and do all kinds of other things, which we already have in place. But that is the rate at which this cat and mouse game is being played. Fraudsters are taking a step ahead. And right now, as we speak, we have the dire wolf, which IBM has coined sort of the dire wolf campaign, but the dire malware, which is taking on another version of this attack. Now, interestingly, what's happening in dire is the user again gets a malware onto the device, and the username credentials are gone. But then a screen comes in the middle saying there is a problem in the banking website. Please call this 1-800 number so that we can help you. And the fraudster's call center is connected, and they're able to impersonate the bank from which the user is coming from. Say, I'm calling from so-and-so bank, give us your further details. They are targeting largely large corporate banking, HNI kind of customers who have more credit limits and large number of transactions are going. So very pinpoint sort of targeted attacks being carried out in Europe and US right now. And this is dire, which is sort of adding more and more banks to its configuration list, as our Israel sort of fraud intelligence teams tell us. And this is happening while we are here and talking about cybersecurity. And that's where sort of we would like to elevate this conversation. And some people, I think there was a very good point raised that, is cybersecurity only an IT problem? We believe it's not an IT problem. I think it's a business problem now. When banks are saying that my cost of doing a transaction through the branch is 60 rupees and the cost of doing a transaction on the digital channel is less than a rupee, people want to drive the digital channel. People want to adopt the digital channel. We're talking about a country, ladies and gents, where 60% of the population is younger than us in the room. And they are the digital native population coming in from tier 2, tier 3 cities, using Android phones, using all sorts of devices to be internet native on the mobile phone. And what is the strategy around, you have a strategy around marketing and cost of customer acquisition, but what is the strategy around securing that digital channel? And I think that is where you would like to elevate the conversation as key security thinkers in your organizations. And the press has it all. I think they love to pick it up. India being targeted by malware, liabilities being shifted to the banks, a case in Mumbai High Court where banks and telcos have been fined, etc. There's also a lot of social media and social media banking. The challenge with, and someone raised the point of educating users always and continuously. Now, when people are on social media, and I don't know, by a show of hands, how many of you are on Twitter? I think quite a few, I think good 40% of the audience. And I think those who are on Twitter know that, with bit.lys, with hashtags, you don't really know what you're clicking on. And it may be something which may take you to a site you shouldn't be going. And fraudsters, intelligently enough, after the Charlie Hebdo attack in Paris, there was Yes We Charlie, which was trending globally, at least in the Western world, in the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant world. And Yes We Charlie, a cute picture came up with a kid in an armband saying Yes We Charlie. People clicked on it, and the dark comet malware came onto the device. Less than, I think, 2 out of 53 antiviruses could only detect that, which were on users' endpoints. And this continues to then take information. And that's sort of the challenge which we are facing right now, that the threats which are coming from the endpoint, they are essentially in the quadrant of you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what's about to hit you. And that's, I think my colleague was making the point that it's not like the game of chess where you know the attack vectors and where they could be coming from. Mobile was mentioned as well, and I think the mobile malware and the mobile threat is a real sort of issue which we are facing right now, like I mentioned about the Malaysian bank. And fraudsters would follow the channel which we'll be investing in. And I think we'll see more and more intelligent ways to try and breach the two-factor authentication or whatever security we put in place. Talking about regulation, I think there have been working papers from RBI which have been existing for a point of time. There have been a lot of information of what is at the network level and host level. What we'd like to point your attention is that there is also some information on at the user level. The RBI expects perhaps when the users are coming in for you to have an indicator that they have a malicious code on their device. And perhaps you should be doing something differently to give that user a different user experience. He should either be challenged to give some kind of response, either he should not be allowed to add a new payee, or he should not be allowed to make a transaction if he's coming in from an infected device. That's our point of view. These screens are about how malware is being injected into a mobile browser while you are in a banking session. I'll have my colleague Tushar come up very quickly, and we'll try and simulate it by going on two leading banking websites. We'll ask you to come from your devices, go to that URL, we'll come from ours, and we'll show you what typically happens when a fraudster has infected a device with a malware. There's also talks of biometrics. This is from a hackers conference in Germany, where in the front row was the German defense minister. A hacker came in and was actually able to have a thumb impression of her from a high resolution image available on the web, and actually try and ensure that he could hack into her account. So again, this is just to demonstrate the cat and mouse game. I think as we will bring in more defenses, people will try and break it. And I think you all are well aware about that. Do we think we are fighting a losing battle? In some cases, yes, because users continue to make mistakes, new threats are continue to emerge, and malware detection is usually lagging. This, by the way, is the letter that the Malaysian bank had then to send out to all its users. It's still on its website, saying that you may get an SMS asking you to download a fake banking website, and please refrain from it. Most users may have read it, some may still not be educated about it. And this is sort of the premise of a lot of the conversation this morning, that while we've been investing a lot on putting our perimeter security, the easiest way to come into your network is through the endpoints of your users or employees. And I think that's sort of the crux of a lot of points we may be discussing during the course of the day. Talking again about elevating that conversation into your organization, I think there are a lot of reasons why you should be looking at cybersecurity not as only an IT problem, but as a business problem, and elevate it at that level, especially with new payment banks coming in, people starting to use digital wallets. If you are taking Uber, you have to have Paytm now. There's no other way to do it. And then for them, these are interesting ways to get a large user base and then use them to do a lot more of what banking provides right now as services. And a 1 lakh deposit on a payment bank, I don't think is a small limit. I think it's a fairly good limit for a lot of small transactions to move to a new digital wallet in the coming time. And yeah, well, I'll invite my colleague Tushar now to just do a little demo, and we'll see what you see.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tushar, and I look after the technology solution for Trusteer. So I'm going to actually scare you a bit, with the demo. So what I'm going to do is basically a device which is infected with a financial malware. Okay, and I can tell you, if I can request you guys to, you all to basically go to that URL from your device, and I will go from the infected device and see what happens in real time. What is the impact of the financial malware? What it can actually do when the customer actually is trying to access internet banking from an infected device, right? So there is a spy malware which is infected this device, okay? And when I try to go to, for saving the time, I actually loaded the application already onto this device. So when I go to First Republic Bank URL, this is the URL, firstrepublic.com/bankingonline, right? As a customer of this, I am supposed to see username and password, right? But what I also see is a credit card number, right? This is a problem, right? Ideally, I shouldn't be saying this, right? But what the spy malware has actually done is it has injected this field in real time, and the customer falls for it. Customer feels that the bank is actually asking for this details, right? Now, if you see, this is a remote machine. If I go to my desktop, right, and if I try to access the First Republic, this is what ideally I should get as a customer of First Republic: username and a password, right? Now the second malware which I'm going to show is the Bugat malware. This is for Bank of America. So if you can access this Bank of America from your device and see what happens, right? But I'm accessing it from an infected device. If you see, there are a lot of PII questions that it is asking, right? It is actually asking you your personal details. It is asking you the credit card number, security code, expiration date, all the details, right? And customers may fall for it, because it is something like the bank is asking. these details, right? And if I access the same URL from a clean device, right, this is what ideally I should see. It should be just asking me a user ID. That's it, right? But what the Bugat malware has done is it has actually injected this PII fields real time into the web page. Then there is another malware which is gauzy, right? Which is basically targeted for Barclays. And what it has actually done is it has actually injected an overlay screen, right? What it has actually been asking you is again a PII information. So without giving this information, I cannot proceed, right? So this is the kind of impact the financial malware has. It has the ability to collect a lot of PII information and also your username and password, right? So this URL, if I access it from a clean machine, this is what I'm supposed to get, right? It should ideally ask me only a user ID, that's it. So what we are trying to highlight here is that we are seeing this trend of financial malware being infected, getting it into Indian banks also, right? So, and that's where, as Vaibhav rightly mentioned that while we are looking at security solutions around perimeter, we need to also look at how do we secure the endpoints, because that's the source through which the customers are trying to come in, and that's the weakest link where the cyber criminals are trying to expose, right? They're trying to get into that source, the device, and then try to get an entry into the bank's infrastructure, right? So, with that, this is what I had to show in this short demo. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think we look forward to speaking with many of you during the day and otherwise as well. Thank you for your time and for listening to us.
Thank you.
Now I would like to call upon our second speaker, Mr. Mayur.